Welcome back to Sunrise on the Hill, your morning pulse on politics. For the first time in 28 years, a Democrat will be the mayor in Miami.
Yeah, last night, Democrat Eileen Higgins took down Trump-backed Emilio Gonzalez by 19 points. Joining us to talk more about the Miami election and other elections that have maybe spelled some warning signs for the GOP is Princeton University's Dr. Lauren Wright. Dr. Wright, a decisive victory for Higgins. It comes on the heels of wins in Virginia, New Jersey. There's also a state house seat in Georgia that flipped yesterday. What do you make of all these apparent shifts toward the Democratic Party right now in the electorate?
Well, you said it, Corey. The combined effect is something I think it's safe to draw some conclusions from. Republicans are in big trouble heading into the midterms. Trump's popularity is waning. He's severely underwater on the economy and on these other issues where he previously had really strong levels of support from Republicans and independents and some conservative Democrats like immigration, national security. He's slipping a little bit too. And so if we were taking the Miami race alone, I would say don't extrapolate. You know, this is fewer than 50,000 voters. People say it's ceremonial, but you can't ignore the trend here, which is that Democrats are doing quite well.
More of a look at those numbers that we just had up. Eileen Higgins in the Miami race, 59.5%. Emilio Gonzalez, 40.5%. This is, Kamala Harris won Miami by 1 point last year. Higgins won it by 19 points. Miami, 70% Latino. Dr. Wright, do you think Hispanic voters are souring on Trump?
Well, they're open to both parties. And so both parties need to work really hard to get those voters. The mistake for Democrats would be to assume they're single issue immigration voters. Many have had families here for decades, and not assume that the economy is also the top of the list issue for them, just like other groups of voters. And so just like the economy drove Hispanic voters, working voters to the Republican Party in 2024, those same voters are saying, hey, the stuff that you promised is not really happening. I'm still struggling to feed my family and pay my bills. And so I'm going to consider the other party. I really think this is economics driven.
So, I don't want to speak for any GOP strategists out there, but I assume maybe they see these results in Miami, in Virginia, New Jersey, and say, it's the economy. We know the president is out campaigning. Well, I say campaigning. He's out, spreading his message that things are going great.
It is campaigning, yeah.
Inflation is down. What do you make of his stop that he had in Pennsylvania, where, while he did talk a little bit about the economy, he treated it more like a campaign rally and went back to some of the grievances that he's held in the past?
Well, it's a little difficult because he doesn't have a lot of choices here. He campaigned on the economy and he has to continue to defend his policies and try to make voters believe that those are going to bring benefits. Now, that's also putting himself in a box because, again, this is the most important issue for voters. And when you say, similarly to President Biden, that, think you're just looking at the wrong numbers, things are really better than you think, you're going to start to get pushback not only from the opposite side of the aisle, but from your own party. And so I think the task for Democrats is to stick to economic messages that relate to people's day-to-day lives and take advantage of this, but also just not to assume that Republicans across the board are going to fail and they don't have to shore up their own message. They do, even though Trump's failures is definitely, that's the trumpet they've been sounding for quite a few months now.
The president honing in on affordability. Dr. Wright, you're at Princeton University. What are you hearing from your students on campus about affordability?
Well, a lot of students have a lot of issues, and I'm writing a book right now about college campuses. So I've talked to a lot of undergraduate students, but also graduate students. And we have postdoctoral fellows who have unionized at universities, including Princeton. We have graduate students that are unionizing. And these are simply options that weren't really in the mix for even the most left-leaning students a few years ago. But now, especially in a place like Princeton, where it's so hard to make ends meet, even in an elite profession at an Ivy League school, there's a lot of students telling me those stories. They're worried about housing if they live off campus. Yeah, they're really worried about their security. And then for undergrads, Judy, the number one issue is finding a job, of course.
So we know the president is out there selling his Make America Affordable Again message. The GOP ahead of the midterms has got to be out there selling the One Big Beautiful Bill, which they're trying to rebrand as the Working Families Tax Cut. We know that messaging is very important in politics. Does going from the One Big Beautiful Bill to the Working Families Tax Cut cut it when it comes to spreading your message to voters?
Well, look, Republicans have an easier time messaging on the economy because public opinion shows they're still more trusted over the economy if you look over time. However, they have to make the case, and again, it's very hard because people are suffering right now, that this big, beautiful bill is going to help them. Very similar to Biden and the Inflation Reduction Act, which then campaign advisors said, well, you know, that was sort of a misnomer. We didn't really mean to reduce inflation. We just wanted to spur growth in the economy. Republicans must make the case that their policies, including tax cuts and deregulation, will spur the economy, and people have to believe it. They have to start to see some messages. I do think this $1,000 for each child, those types of policies, while they're not really conservative policies ideologically, are very popular. And one good thing about President Trump, I will say, is he is totally happy to deviate from the party line on economics. He just wants to do what works. And so he's pushed things like stimulus in the past. He's pushed things like direct payments to Americans. And so he might start to use more of those tools and push those tools too.
Do you think that we'll see more of the president across the country? He was in Pennsylvania yesterday. Yeah. What do you see as going forward with the president and this economic message?
I do, because I think he realizes that he still brings the biggest spotlight in the world as the president. And so even if he can just marginally move the needle to get people feeling a little more optimistic, even if he's just his show business self and gets people to watch and hear his message, that's also a benefit. And so, yes, I think we will start to see more and more of him on domestic politics. Exactly. And I do think people tune in because you never know what he's going to say. And he is the most powerful person in the world.
Dr. Wright, we've got about 30 seconds left. I want to ask you something. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy floated this idea about maybe having workout areas at airports. You trying to work out before you catch a flight?
Oh, my gosh. No, I know I'm trying to caffeinate. I'm stuffing my face with whatever there is. Just you don't even want to know what my airport routine is, but it is not exercise. It's not those little spa areas. Those look nice, but I don't know who uses them. Yeah, candy, caffeine, all the bad things to get through the flight. That's my routine.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my kids away from those $20 bags of candy that they try to sell at the mini marts at the airport.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Yep. I know what you're talking about.
One person's vice is another person's virtue. Dr. Wright, thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll check in with you next Wednesday.